The jungle was alive with sound. Birds cried from the treetops, insects hummed in thick swarms, and the wind carried the scent of earth and rain deep within this endless green world. The pyramids of the ancient Maya stood like giants of stone. Their sharp steps rose above the trees, their tips sometimes catching the light of the sun. For centuries, they had watched the jungle grow and the people change, yet they remained silent, keeping secrets that no one had fully uncovered. Many travelers had come to study them. Some wanted riches, others wanted fame, and some wanted to understand the people who built such wonders. Still, no matter how many had walked among the ruins, the pyramids kept part of their truth hidden. Chambers remained sealed, passages collapsed, and carvings unread. Even with modern science and machines, the mysteries of the Maya refused to give themselves away easily. It was this mystery that brought Daniel to the jungle. He was a young historian, though not the kind who enjoyed sitting in libraries all his life. He loved books, but he believed history came alive when one walked where the people of the past had once walked. For years, he had studied the writings of early explorers, the drawings made by Spanish chroniclers, and the maps drawn by adventurers. Many of them wrote about treasures and gold. But Daniel was interested in something different. He believed the pyramids held knowledge that went beyond wealth. Ever since he was a boy, Daniel had been fascinated by the stories of ancient civilizations. His grandfather had once shown him a book filled with pictures of ruins. Among them were the sharp steps of the Mayan pyramids, rising like stairways to the sky. His grandfather had said, "These are not just stones, Daniel. They are messages left for us." That thought never left him. Now, years later, he had followed that childhood dream to this place. As he walked along a path cut through the jungle, Daniel looked at the trees towering above him. The air was heavy with heat, and sweat ran down his face, but he felt alive. Each step brought him closer to something he had waited for all his life. He was not alone in this journey. He had gathered a small team, each person chosen for their skill. Maria was an archaeologist, older than Daniel, but full of energy. She had spent years digging at sites across Central America, uncovering pottery, bones, and forgotten tools. She had sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She often reminded Daniel to be careful not to let excitement cloud his judgment. Tomas, their guide, was a local man whose family had lived near the ruins for generations. He knew the jungle like his own home. His stories carried the wisdom of his ancestors, and he often spoke of the spirits who guarded the pyramids. Luis, the youngest of the group, was a linguist. He had studied the Mayan language since his teenage years and could read many of the glyphs carved into the stones. Together, they formed a group that Daniel believed could succeed where others had failed. Their journey began. At sunrise, the team carried packs filled with tools, maps, food, and water. The jungle tested them from the very start. Mosquitoes swarmed around them, biting any skin left uncovered. The ground was uneven and slippery, and roots caught their feet as they walked. Yet no one complained. Maria brushed the insects from her arms. Tomas moved ahead with steady steps, and Luis tried to distract himself by humming a tune. Daniel felt proud of them. They were not just explorers, but dreamers like him, each searching for something more than ordinary life could offer. As they moved deeper into the forest, Tomas spoke of the place they were heading toward. The old people call it the House of the Serpent. He said, "They say it is dangerous. Some believe it is cursed. Others say it is not meant for us to see." His words hung in the air like a warning. Luis looked uneasy, but Maria smiled. "Every site has a legend," she said. "That's what makes it exciting." Daniel listened carefully. He respected Tomas's words. Legends, he knew, often carried pieces of truth hidden within them. By noon, the group reached a clearing where one of the smaller pyramids stood. The pyramid rose out of the ground like a giant stairway, its top partly hidden by trees. Vines wrapped around the stones, and small plants grew in the cracks. Birds circled overhead, and lizards ran across the warm steps. Daniel stopped to take it in. The sight filled him with both awe and determination. He touched the stone, feeling its rough surface. These stones were placed here by hand centuries ago, he said softly. Each block tells a story. Maria joined him, brushing away moss to reveal carvings on the stone. Look, she said. These patterns show stars. The Maya built with the sky in mind. Luis knelt beside her, tracing the glyphs with his fingers. It speaks of time, he said. Not just the days and seasons, but long cycles. His voice trembled with excitement. It is like they wanted to record the movement of the universe itself. Daniel's heart raced. This was what he had hoped for. The pyramids were not just graves or temples. They were books written in stone. Books that might tell of knowledge forgotten by the world. Still, this pyramid was not the one he truly sought. He had read hints in old documents of another, hidden deeper in the forest. One that explorers rarely reach. Its entrance was said to be sealed, its chambers untouched. That was where he believed the greatest secret rested, standing before the smaller pyramid. Daniel felt more certain than ever that his journey was leading him towards something extraordinary. As the sun began to set, the team set up camp near the ruins. A fire crackled as night spread across the jungle, the air filled with the calls of owls and the distant roar of a jaguar. Tomas told the story of his grandfather, who had once come near the house of the serpent but had turned back after hearing strange sounds within the stone. Maria listened with curiosity, while Luis scribbled notes in his journal. Daniel stared into the flames, his thoughts far away. He knew they were standing on the edge of a great discovery. The jungle was dark and full of challenges, but within its heart, the pyramids waited. They had stood for centuries, holding their silence, but Daniel was determined to make them speak. He did not want gold or riches. He wanted the truth, the knowledge hidden beneath the stones. And as the fire burned low and the stars filled the sky, Daniel whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, we begin." Morning came with the cries of birds echoing across the jungle. The air was cool for a short while, but Daniel knew the heat would soon return. He rose early, shaking off the thin blanket he had used through the night. The fire had died down to ashes, and Tomas was already awake, sharpening a machete to cut through the heavy growth ahead. Maria stretched and rubbed her eyes, while Luis sat cross-legged with his notebook open. Still writing down the dreams he had in the night. Daniel stood and looked at the pyramid nearby, its top catching the first golden light of the sun. The sight gave him strength. Today, they would begin their real search for the pyramid spoken of in legends, the one Tomas's people called the House of the Serpent. He believed it was there that the greatest secrets were waiting, untouched by explorers. And untouched by time. Eat well, Tomas said as he passed around pieces of bread and dried fruit. The path will not be easy. Maria took her share and smiled. Every good path is never easy. That is why we are here. Luis nodded, but kept his eyes on the pages of his notebook. He wrote as if every detail of the journey had to be remembered. Daniel admired his focus. He was the youngest of the group, yet his knowledge of Mayan language was remarkable. Without him, much of what they would find might remain unreadable. After a simple meal, the team packed their supplies. They carried ropes, tools, notebooks, and enough food for several days. Tomas led the way, swinging his machete to clear vines and branches. The sound of metal striking wood echoed through the trees. Daniel followed close behind, while Maria checked the ground for signs of ancient paths. And Luis carefully marked their route in his notebook. The jungle was thick, and the air grew heavy as the sun rose higher. Sweat rolled down their faces, and insects swarmed around them. Yet they pressed on. Each step felt like a step into history. Roots twisted across the ground like snakes, and strange flowers with bright colors grew from the shadows. The smell of damp earth filled the air. Every now and then, a distant animal cry broke the silence, reminding them that the jungle was alive and watching as they moved. Tomas shared more of the stories his elders had told him. The House of the Serpent is not like the other pyramids. He said, it is said to be hidden, waiting for the right ones to find it. Some say it is guarded by more than stone. My grandfather told me that men who enter without respect never returned. Luis looked nervous at these words, but Maria spoke calmly. Legends are warnings, but they are also keys. Sometimes they tell us where to look. Daniel agreed. Stories carry truth, even if wrapped in mystery. We will treat the place with respect. That is why we are different from those who only wanted gold. The hours passed, and the sun climbed high. At midday, they stopped to rest near a stream. The water was clear and cool, and they filled their flasks while Tomas checked the map Daniel had brought. The map was old, copied from Spanish notes written centuries ago. Most of it was faded, but Daniel had compared it with modern surveys and believed it pointed to a site deep in the forest. Maria leaned back against a rock, wiping her brow. If your map is right, Daniel, then we may be walking into a place untouched for centuries. That is exactly what I hope, Daniel replied. His voice carried both excitement and weight. He knew the risks, but felt the call of discovery. Stronger than fear. Luis sat close by, sketching the stream and trees in his notebook. If the Maya hid something there, it must have been important, he said. They did not waste stone or words. Everything had meaning. Tomas nodded. The old ones believed the serpent was a path between the earth and the sky. If the pyramid is the house of the serpent, then it may be more than a tomb. It may be a place of passage. Daniel thought about those words as they continued their journey, a place of passage. The idea filled him with both wonder and curiosity. Could it be that the pyramid was built not just for worship, but as a map of the universe, a way to connect the people with the heavens above? By late afternoon, the forest grew darker. Even though the sun was still high, the trees were taller. Here, their branches locking together like a roof, moss covered the trunks, and the ground was soft beneath their boots. The air smelled older, heavier. Daniel felt a sense of nearness, as if the pyramid was close. Look, Maria said suddenly, pointing to a stone half buried in the soil. It was carved with faint lines. Tomas knelt and brushed away the dirt. The carving was of a serpent winding across the surface. Luis studied it carefully. This is not a loose stone, he said. It was part of something larger, perhaps a wall or a path. They searched the area and soon found more stones, some with carvings of stars, others with patterns of steps. It was as if they had stumbled upon the broken remains of a forgotten road. The excitement in the group grew. Every stone seemed to whisper that they were moving in the right direction. As the sun lowered, they reached a clearing unlike any they had seen before. The ground was uneven, and large roots broke through the soil. In the center stood a stone platform, half buried by time and covered in vines. It was not tall like the other pyramids they had seen, but its shape suggested a hidden entrance below. Daniel's heart beat faster. He stepped closer, brushing away leaves to reveal carvings of a serpent with stars above its head. Luis traced the glyphs and read them aloud. It says the door opens when the sky aligns. His voice shook slightly. Maria leaned close. That could mean the stars, a certain time of night, or a certain season. Daniel touched the stone and smiled. Then we will wait and watch. If the Maya built this to open with the heavens, we will follow their plan. The jungle grew quiet around them, as if holding its breath. The team set up camp near the platform, their minds filled with questions. The day had tested them with heat and exhaustion, yet it ended with discovery. The journey was far from over, but Daniel knew they had taken their first true step into the hidden world of the pyramid. As the fire burned that night, Tomas spoke softly. We are close. I can feel it. Daniel looked at the stars above and whispered in his thoughts, the secrets are waiting. Night fell heavy over the jungle. The team's small fire flickered against the stone platform, throwing long shadows on the serpent carvings. The stars above shone through the canopy. Scattered like silver dust, Daniel sat close to the fire, with his notebook, sketching the designs he had seen on the platform. Luis leaned beside him, whispering words as he copied glyphs into his journal. Maria checked the ropes and lamps while Tomas sat silently, sharpening his machete and watching the trees around them. With cautious eyes, the air felt different that night, charged with something unspoken. Every member of the team sensed it. They had walked many ruins before, yet this place felt alive in its silence, as if it was waiting for them. Luis spoke first. The carving of the serpent. The stars is not random. The glyphs say the door opens when the sky aligns. I think it refers to a constellation, If we watch the stars, the answer will show itself. Daniel nodded. We wait then. The Maya built with the heavens in mind. They would not leave this message without reason. Hours passed as the fire burned low. The team lay on their backs, staring at the sky. Slowly, the stars moved across the night, just as they had for centuries. Then Maria pointed upward. There, she said. The stars formed the serpent shape. Do you see it? They all looked. A line of stars curved across the sky like the body of a snake at its head. The bright stars gleamed like eyes. Daniel felt his pulse quicken. He turned back to the platform, watching as moonlight touched the serpent carvings on the stone. The moment was quiet, then something shifted. A deep sound, like stone grinding against stone, echoed through the clearing. The team stood quickly, hearts racing. From the center of the platform, dust rose as a section of stone slowly sank into the ground. Tomas tightened his grip on the machete. The door has opened, he said softly. His voice was both fearful and respectful. Daniel stepped forward, his eyes wide with wonder. Beneath the sinking stone, a dark passage revealed itself, leading into the earth. Cool air rushed out, carrying the scent of age, dust, and secrets kept for centuries. It felt as though the pyramid itself had exhaled after a long silence. Maria lit a torch and held it high, casting light into the blackness. The tunnel stretched downward, its walls carved with faint shapes. She turned to Daniel. Are we ready for this? Daniel met her eyes and nodded. This is why we came. One by one, they gathered their packs, checked their ropes, and prepared their lamps. Tomas went first, his steps steady on the narrow stairs. Daniel followed close behind, then Maria, with Luis at the back. The stone walls closed around them as they descended. The further they went, the cooler the air became. The sound of the jungle faded, replaced by silence that pressed against their ears. Their footsteps echoed, reminding them they were walking into a place untouched for countless years. The torchlight flickered against carvings on the walls, snakes, stars, and patterns of spirals stretched along the stone, guiding them deeper. Luis stopped often to trace the glyphs with his fingers. These are old, he whispered. Very old. They speak of a journey from the earth to the sky. It is like the pyramid is a bridge between worlds. Daniel listened, his mind racing. He had always believed the pyramids were more than tombs. Now he was walking inside one that seemed built to prove that belief. After a long descent, the stairs opened into a chamber. The team stepped into the space and gasped. The room was wide, its ceiling high, supported by carved pillars shaped like serpents. Their stone bodies coiled upward, their heads facing the center of the chamber. On the floor lay a large circle carved into the stone, filled with symbols of stars and planets. Maria walked to the circle, running her hand over the carvings. This is a map of the heavens, she said in awe. The Maya charted the sky with incredible detail. Tomas lit more torches along the walls, revealing murals painted in faded colors. Warriors stood beside priests, and above them, shapes of stars guided their actions. Luis read aloud the words painted near the murals. It says the builders carried wisdom from those who came before. They built so the memory would not be lost. Daniel felt his heart pound. This is it, he said softly. This is the record I believe was here. Not just a temple, not just a tomb, but a message carved for the future. As they explored, Maria noticed something unusual. Near one of the serpent pillars, a stone block was set differently from the others. It had marks of wear, as if it could move. She called the others. Together, they pushed against it. At first it resisted, but then it gave way, sliding aside with a groan of ancient stone. Behind it lay another passage, smaller and darker. Daniel felt both fear and excitement. This was no ordinary path. The real secret is further in, he whispered. They entered carefully, crouching as the ceiling lowered. The air grew colder, and the walls glistened with moisture. Strange markings covered the stone, unlike the ones outside. Luis frowned as he studied them. These are older than the Mayan script we know. This could be from a time before. The thought struck them all with wonder. If true, this pyramid held not only the history of the Maya, but knowledge from an even earlier people. At last, the narrow passage ended at a stone door. Carved across it was the image of a great serpent swallowing the sun. The sight made Louise shiver. This symbol means a test. To pass, one must follow the path of the serpent. Tomas touched the door with respect. My grandfather spoke of this. He said the serpent allows only the worthy to pass. Daniel placed his hand on the stone. Then we will be worthy. They stood together before the sealed door, knowing beyond it lay truths hidden. For centuries, the jungle outside slept, unaware of what was happening beneath its roots. The team had opened the hidden entrance, and with it, the first chapter of a secret long guarded by stone and stars. That night, as they set their camp inside the serpent chamber, Daniel could not sleep. His eyes stayed fixed on the door. He felt the weight of history pressing down on them, yet also the thrill of standing where no one had stood for ages. Tomorrow, they would open it. The air inside the serpent chamber was cold and heavy. The stone door with the carving of the serpent swallowing the sun loomed before the team. Like a silent guardian, Daniel sat near the fire, staring at it as the flames cast flickering light across the ancient image. The others were quiet, each lost in thought. They all knew that behind that door lay something important, something that had been sealed away for centuries. Maria finally broke the silence. We have come too far to turn back now, she said firmly. Tomorrow, we must find a way to open it. Luis nodded, though his face was pale. The markings say the serpent allows only the worthy to pass. I believe this is not just a door. It may be a puzzle, maybe even a trial. Tomas looked serious. The serpent tests those who enter, if we do not respect the rules. The pyramid itself may become our enemy. Daniel listened carefully, then spoke with steady voice. We will face it together, whatever lies beyond. We will meet it as one team. When morning came, they prepared themselves. The torches burned bright as they stood before the serpent door. Louis studied the symbols carved along its edges. He traced them with his fingers, reading slowly. It speaks of the path of the stars, the journey of the serpent across the sky. It says the door will open when the traveler follows the right steps. Maria stepped closer and examined the floor in front of the door. She brushed away dust and saw that the stone tiles were arranged in patterns. Some had carvings of stars, others of animals, while many were plain. She pointed at them. This is it, a puzzle. We must walk across in the right order. Daniel's heart raced. Like walking the path of the serpent, he said. Tomas tightened his grip on the torch. Then let us choose carefully. One wrong step could be dangerous. Louis studied the tiles and compared them with the serpent constellation he had drawn the night before. Look, he said, pointing. The serpent's body is made of stars. If we follow the same shape here, it should guide us across. The group agreed. Tomas stepped first, placing his foot on the star tile at the corner. Nothing happened. Then he moved to the next star, then the next. Each time, they held their breath. The floor remained steady. Daniel followed, then Maria, then Luis. Together they traced the path of the serpent. Stepping carefully across the tiles. At last, Tomas placed his foot on the final star tile. Shaped like the serpent's head, a deep sound echoed through the chamber, and the serpent door began to tremble. Dust fell from above as the great stone slowly slid open, revealing darkness beyond. They stood silently, awed by what they had achieved. Daniel felt his chest tighten with excitement. We did it, he whispered. We are the first to enter in centuries. The door opened wide enough for them to pass. Torches in hand, they stepped into the hidden chambers. The air was even, colder here, carrying the scent of stone and time. The tunnel stretched downward, carved with more images of serpents and stars. Their footsteps echoed as they walked, each sound magnified in the stillness. After a long descent, the tunnel opened into a massive underground hall. The sight before them stole their breath. The ceiling rose high above, painted with faded images of constellations. The walls were lined with murals showing priests raising their hands to the sky, warriors standing beside them, and great serpents coiled among the stars. At the center of the hall stood a huge stone table. Upon it rested a jade mask, gleaming in the torchlight, and golden inscriptions that shimmered faintly after centuries of silence. Maria stepped forward slowly, her eyes wide. This is incredible, she said softly, a chamber untouched since the day it was sealed. Luis hurried to the inscriptions, brushing dust away with trembling hands. He bent close, reading the glyphs carved into the gold. His voice shook. As he spoke, it speaks of knowledge passed down from before the Maya. It says, "We are not the first. We carry the wisdom of the ones who came before." Daniel felt chills run through him. The builders were not only recording their own time, they were protecting something older, something even more ancient. Maria picked up the jade mask carefully, turning it in her hands. This was not made just for beauty. Look at the detail. The eyes are lined with tiny star patterns. Luis confirmed it. Yes, it says here that the mask was a symbol of the seer, the one who looked at both earth and sky. The mask is a key. Tomas walked around the hall, his torchlight revealing more carvings. These murals show people crossing great waters, he said. Boats filled with figures, reaching distant lands. Daniel's heart pounded. This changes everything. If true, it means the Maya carried stories of great migrations, of people traveling across oceans long before others believed it possible. The team explored further. Behind the stone table, they found another wall covered with symbols. Luis translated slowly, his voice full of awe. It says, "We build this house not for riches, but for memory. We build so the world would not forget the path of the stars, nor the journey of our ancestors." The words sank deep into their hearts. This pyramid was not a tomb for kings. It was a library of stone, a place where knowledge was preserved. When all else might be lost, Maria whispered, "This is what we came for. Not treasure, not gold, but truth." Daniel looked around the chamber, feeling the weight of centuries pressing upon him, and now it is ours to protect. But even as he spoke, he knew the journey was not over. The chamber was vast, yet there were shadows they had not explored. Behind the murals, cracks in the stone hinted at passages leading deeper still. And at the far end of the hall stood another great serpent carving, its eyes made of polished obsidian. Watching them silently, Tomas pointed to it. "The serpent is not finished with us. There is more to be found." Daniel agreed. This chamber is only the beginning. That night, they rested within the hall, their torches casting warm light against the ancient murals. None of them slept easily. They knew they had uncovered something extraordinary, something that connected the Maya to forgotten ages. Yet they also knew the pyramid was far from finished revealing its secrets. As Daniel lay awake, staring at the painted stars above, he thought of his grandfather's words. These are not just stones. They are messages left for us now. Here in the heart of the pyramid, he understood. The stones were speaking, and he was finally hearing their voice. Tomorrow, they would follow the shadows and open the next passage. The secrets of the underground chambers were only beginning to unfold. The underground chamber was silent except for the crackle of their torches. The giant serpent carved at the far end of the hall seemed to watch them, its obsidian eyes gleaming in the firelight. Daniel felt its gaze pressing on him. The murals had revealed much, but he knew more waited beyond that carving. The serpent was not only a symbol, but a gatekeeper. Maria set the jade mask carefully back on the stone table. "This place is more than we imagine," she said quietly. "But I don't think we've reached the true heart of the pyramid yet." Luis pointed to the serpent. "The glyphs near it speak of a passage. They say the serpent tests all who enter. It is called the trial of the serpent." His hands trembled as he read. "Only those who walk the path with wisdom and courage will reach the inner hall." Tomas lifted his torch higher, scanning the wall. "Then that is our way forward. But we must be prepared. The builders would not have left it unguarded." Daniel took a deep breath. Every great discovery demands risk. "We did not come here for comfort. We came here to uncover the truth." They approached the serpent carving. As they drew near, they saw that its mouth was open wide. Inside was darkness, so deep that even their torches barely touched it. The floor before the mouth was covered in strange tiles, much like the ones at the first door. But these were arranged in spirals and circles, and in the center was a single stone shaped like a serpent's head. Luis crouched to study them. "This is different," he said. "It is not only a path, it is a test of knowledge." The glyphs say the serpent devours those who lose their way. Maria frowned. So if we step wrong, something will happen. Tomas tested the first tile with the end of his spear. Nothing moved. But when he pressed another tile at random, a sudden rumble shook the chamber, and dust fell from the ceiling. He pulled back quickly. The pyramid warns us, he said. We cannot guess. We must follow the serpent's body. Daniel leaned over the tiles, studying the pattern. The spirals looked like stars circling in the sky. Luis, he said, remember the constellation of the serpent we saw in the sky? Could this be the same? Luis's eyes lit up. He traced the tiles with his finger. Yes, the serpent's path in the heavens matches these spirals. If we step in the same order as the stars, we can cross safely. The group agreed. Tomas went first, his steady hands gripping the torch. He placed his foot on the first star. Tile. Nothing happened. He moved to the next one, shaped like a curve in the serpent's body. Still safe, slowly, step by step, he walked the path of the stars. Daniel followed close behind, then Maria, then Luis. The deeper they went across the spiral, the darker the chamber seemed to grow. The serpent's eyes gleamed brighter, almost alive in the torchlight. The tiles behind them rumbled softly, sealing the way back. Luis whispered, his voice shaking. We cannot go back. The serpent allows only forward. At last, Tomas stepped onto the central stone shaped like the serpent's head. A deep sound filled the hall, like a drum beating from the heart of the earth. The tiles glowed faintly, tracing the serpent's body across the floor. Then, slowly, the mouth of the carved serpent opened wider, revealing a stairway that led down into deeper shadows. The group stood silently for a moment, awed by the living design of the pyramid. Daniel's voice was low but steady. We passed the trial. The pyramid has accepted us. They entered the serpent's mouth together. Descending the narrow stairway, the walls closed in, carved with images of serpents winding through the stars. Their torches cast flickering light, and the air grew colder with every step. It felt as if they were moving not just deeper into the earth, but into another world entirely. At the bottom, they entered another chamber, smaller than the first but more mysterious. The walls were smooth and polished, reflecting the light like mirrors. On the floor was a long carving of a serpent coiled in a circle, its tail in its mouth. Inside the circle were symbols of the sun, the moon, and the stars. Maria knelt to study them. This is the symbol of eternity, she said. The serpent devouring its own tail. It means endless cycles, the flow of time without end. Luis translated the glyphs along the edge. It says, to understand the path, one must walk within the circle. Daniel looked at the carving. Then this is the second part of the trial. Without hesitation, he stepped into the circle. The moment his foot touched the center, the chamber shifted. The walls glowed faintly, and the ceiling above lit up with stars, as if the night sky had opened within the pyramid. The others gasped, stepping inside with him. They stood surrounded by constellations, shining with a strange, otherworldly light. Luis whispered in awe, "This is a map of the heavens. But these stars are not only from our sky. Some patterns are different, unknown." Daniel felt his skin prickle. Could it be that the Maya charted stars beyond what we know? Or perhaps knowledge passed down from even older people? As they looked, the constellations shifted, forming shapes of serpents, birds, and great oceans. The floor beneath them vibrated, and the serpent circle glowed brighter. Suddenly, a voice seemed to echo within the chamber. It was not a human voice, but a deep sound carried through the stone itself. The words were not clear, yet Luis understood. Fragments. It speaks of a journey, across seas, across stars, a passage from one world to another. The sound faded, and the chamber grew quiet once more. The stars dimmed until only the torchlight remained. The trial had ended. Maria exhaled. Slowly. That was not just a test of courage. It was a lesson. The serpent showed us the truth of cycles, of journeys without end. Tomas bowed his head. The serpent accepts you. You walk the path, and you listen to its message. Daniel felt a deep sense of awe. He knew they had passed something far greater than a trap. They had been given knowledge. a vision of the universe as the Maya once saw it, and yet, he felt they had only touched the surface. At the far side of the chamber, another passage revealed itself, opened by the serpents. Trial! A faint breeze came through it, carrying the smell of stone mixed with something metallic. It led downward, into deeper darkness. Daniel turned to the others. The serpent has shown us the way. Now we must continue. Whatever lies ahead is the heart of the pyramid. With torches held high, the team stepped forward once again, ready to uncover the next secret waiting in the depths. The narrow passage stretched ahead like the throat of some great beast. The group moved carefully, their torches lighting the damp stone walls. The air was heavy with the smell of minerals, and their footsteps echoed like whispers of ancient voices. Daniel felt the weight of centuries pressing down on them. Every step carried them closer to the truth hidden deep within the pyramid. Maria touched the wall as they walked. Her fingers traced shallow carvings that had been worn smooth with time. The builders left messages everywhere, she said softly, even here, in the deepest parts. Luis lifted his torch higher to see. The carvings showed long lines of people carrying bundles, crossing mountains and seas. Strange ships with high sails appeared among the drawings. These are not only stories of their gods, Luis said. They show journeys, great migrations. The Maya remembered traveling. Far before they built these pyramids, Tomas kept his eyes forward, his grip firm on the spear. If these drawings are true, then what lies ahead may change everything we thought we knew about them. At last, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling soared so high their torches could barely reach it. At the center stood a colossal stone disc, larger than any they had ever seen. The disc was carved with circles inside circles, forming a great calendar. Around it were statues of men, women, and animals, all facing inward as if guarding the disc. The group stood in awe. Maria whispered, "This is no ordinary chamber. This is the heart of the pyramid." Daniel stepped closer to the disc. The carvings were intricate, each circle filled with symbols of the sun, moon, stars, and seasons. "This is the calendar of cycles," he said. "But look at the outer ring. It does not match the others." Luis hurried forward, studying it with wide eyes. The outer ring was carved with strange shapes patterns. That did not belong to the known Maya calendar. He translated carefully, his voice trembling. "It says, the cycle of the earth is only one path. The greater cycle begins beyond the sky." Maria frowned. "Beyond the sky? That sounds like knowledge of the stars, maybe even other worlds." The statues around them seemed to loom taller in the torchlight, their faces solemn and watchful. Tomas looked uneasy. If the Maya knew of such things, where did that knowledge come from? Did they discover it themselves, or did someone give it to them? The chamber felt alive with silence. Daniel placed his hand on the disc. The stone was cool, but he felt a faint vibration, as if the pyramid itself still carried the heartbeat of its builders. "This is the great revelation," he said. "The Maya saw the universe as more than just the earth and the sky above us. They believed they were part of a greater cycle, one that stretched far beyond what we can see." Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the statues seemed to tremble. The group stepped back in alarm, but the disc began to move. Slowly, it turned with a grinding sound, as though awakened after centuries of silence. The circles on the disc aligned, and a thin beam of light pierced the chamber from a hidden crack above. The beam struck the center of the disc, and the carvings began to glow faintly. The light spread, tracing the outer ring until it formed the shape of a serpent winding around the calendar. Luis gasped, "The serpent again. It is always the key." The glowing lines revealed hidden glyphs that had been invisible before. Luis read quickly, his voice steady but filled with awe. "It says, we came from the sea of stars. We gave knowledge of time and cycles. Guard it until the sky opens again." Maria froze. "Came from the sea of stars. That means they believed their knowledge was a gift from beyond this world." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. The thought was almost too great to grasp. If that is true, then the pyramids are not just tombs or temples. They are messages. Messages. meant to be read by those who would come after. Tomas stood silent for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the glowing disk. This truth is dangerous. He said at last, if the world learns of this, it will not only change history. It may bring questions we are not ready to answer. The beam of light slowly faded, and the carvings dimmed until the chamber was dark once more. The disk stopped moving, returning to silence as if it had revealed enough. The group stood in heavy silence, each lost in thought. Maria finally broke it. We cannot turn back now, whatever this knowledge means. It was meant to be discovered. The builders wanted it preserved, even for us. Daniel nodded firmly. We will record everything. The truth must be known. No matter how great or difficult it is, Luis added, but we must also protect it. If it falls into the wrong hands, it will be used for power, not wisdom. They agreed and began to study the chamber more closely. Along the walls were more carvings. Hidden in the shadows, some showed figures raising their hands to the stars. Others showed great disasters, floods, fires, and dark skies. One carving showed the serpent swallowing the sun, while another showed it releasing the light again. Maria's voice trembled. These may be warnings, cycles of creation and destruction. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Perhaps the Maya believed that great disasters were part of the larger cycle, events that repeat as the stars move. Luis translated a final set of glyphs at the base of the disk. It says, when the serpent devours the light, a new cycle begins. Only those who remember will survive. The words hung heavy in the chamber. None of them spoke for a long while. The truth of the pyramid was greater than any treasure. It was not only history, but a vision of the universe, of time, and of humanity's place within it. Finally, Tomas raised his torch and pointed to a small opening on the far side of the chamber. The path continues, he said. If this is the heart, then what lies beyond may be even greater. Daniel looked at each of them. We came here for answers. Now we have them, but also more questions. Are we willing to see it through? Maria, Luis, and Tomas all nodded. None of them would turn back now. Together, they stepped toward the opening, carrying with them the knowledge of the serpent and the great cycles. The pyramid had revealed its secret, but they sensed that the greatest discovery still waited in the final depths. The narrow opening led the group into a passage far deeper than any they had walked before. The walls pressed close around them, and the air felt heavy with silence. Each step seemed to echo through the stone like a reminder that this was the final path. None of them spoke. They carried the weight of what they had seen, the glowing disk, the serpent. And the message from beyond the stars died at last. The passage widened, and they entered a chamber unlike any other. This one was not grand with high ceilings or towering statues. Instead, it was simple, almost humble. At the center stood a single stone platform, and on it rested a sealed chest carved with intricate patterns of serpents and stars. Daniel's heart pounded. This is what it all led to, he whispered. Maria walked around the chest, her torch casting soft light over the carvings. The serpent here is coiled, but its head points upward to the sky. This must be the final key. Luis bent close, reading the glyphs carved along the chest. His voice was slow, careful. It says, guard the gift until the cycle returns. Only those with wisdom, not greed, may open it. Tomas frowned, his spear steady in his hand. A warning. They wanted to make sure only the right people would see what was inside. Daniel stepped forward and placed both hands on the chest. The stone was smooth but cold. He felt once again that faint vibration, as though the pyramid itself was alive. He looked at his companions. We came this far because we wanted the truth. I believe this is it. Slowly, together, they pushed the lid aside. It moved with surprising ease, as if it had been waiting for them. Inside lay objects that seemed untouched by time. There were scrolls made of bark paper, carefully rolled and tied with thin cords. Beside them rested small stone tablets covered in fine carvings. But what caught their eyes most was a small crystal sphere, glowing faintly, as though it held its own light. Maria gasped. How can it still shine after so many centuries? Luis reached carefully toward the sphere but stopped short. afraid to disturb it. This is not ordinary crystal. I have never seen anything like it. Daniel lifted one of the scrolls with gentle hands. The bark paper was fragile, yet it held firm. He unrolled it slightly, revealing neat lines of glyphs written in dark ink. Luis leaned close to translate. His voice shook as he spoke. It says, "We were taught the movements of the heavens. We were shown the path of time. We build these stones to keep the memory safe. We are not alone in the endless sky." Maria whispered, "It is the same message, over and over." They wanted us to understand. They examined the stone tablets next. The carvings were more complex, showing detailed maps of the stars, constellations, stretched across their surfaces, but many were unfamiliar. Maria pointed to one. "These are not the same constellations we see today. The sky has changed. These maps are thousands of years old, perhaps older." Luis traced the lines with his finger. "And yet, some patterns look like paths, as if marking journeys between the stars." The crystal sphere glowed brighter as they studied it, as if responding to their presence. Daniel held his breath. Could it be more than just a symbol? Perhaps it contains knowledge we cannot yet understand. Tomas stood back, watching silently. He finally spoke in a low voice. "All of this is powerful, but power can bring danger. If the world finds this, will they honor it, or will they fight over it?" His words fell heavy on them. The discovery was greater than anything they had imagined. It was not just history, but a legacy, a gift meant to outlast empires. Yet it was also fragile, and in the wrong hands, it could be twisted. Daniel closed the scroll gently and returned it to the chest. "We must carry this knowledge carefully. It belongs to the world, but it must not be broken or stolen." The Maya trusted the future with their secrets. We cannot betray that trust. Maria nodded firmly. "We will protect it until the right time comes. But the truth must not stay buried forever." Luis added, "We will record everything we have seen, even if the chest must remain hidden. The knowledge will live on in our words." Together they resealed the chest, leaving the sphere, scrolls, and tablets in place. They knew the true treasure was not the objects themselves, but the meaning they carried. The Maya had spoken through time, and their voices had been heard. As they made their way back through the chambers, Daniel felt a strange peace settle over him. The pyramid no longer seemed dark and heavy. It felt alive, like a guardian watching them go. The statues of the serpent seemed less fearful now, more like silent guides. When they emerged into the open air, the sun was rising. Its golden light spilled across the land, washing the pyramid in brilliance. Birds sang from the trees, and the jungle stirred with life. After the heavy silence of the underground, the world outside felt almost new. Daniel looked back at the towering pyramid. For centuries it stood here, keeping its secret, and now, at last, it has spoken. Maria shielded her eyes against the sun. The builders were wise. They knew time would change. Empires would rise and fall, but their message would remain. Luis said, "And now we carry that message. We are part of their cycle." Tomas nodded, his voice steady. "But we must never forget their warning. Knowledge is not just for glory, it is for survival." The group walked away from the pyramid, their hearts heavy yet filled with wonder. They had come seeking treasure, but they had found something greater. They carried with them the legacy of an ancient people who had reached for the stars and left a message for those who would one day listen. Years later, their records would be studied, shared carefully among those who sought truth, not power. Some would doubt, others would believe, but the knowledge would not die. The Maya had spoken across the ages, and their words would live on. And so the pyramid remained, standing tall in the jungle, silent yet eternal. Its stones held stories older than memory, waiting for those who dared to listen. The serpent of time coiled around its secrets, not as a guardian of fear, but as a keeper of wisdom. The legacy of the pyramid was no longer buried. It was alive, carried in the hearts of those who believe that truth, once uncovered, must never be forgotten.